to the bridge on the...
Closer to the bridge is always a good idea.
If you're like most bassists, you have struggled with getting that perfect sound, that big, full, resonant sound that penetrates to the back of the room. I know I have had my struggles over the years, and one thing that has helped me that I just keep forgetting about is getting the bow closer to the bridge. We had a wonderful guest here in San Francisco recently, Nina Burnett, and that was one of the running themes in her master class, and it got me thinking, I've never done a video about why you should play closer to the bridge or how to play closer to the bridge, and so that's what today's video is all about. We dig into topics like this every week on our email newsletter. We've got free monthly sheet music giveaway, community news, all sorts of cool opportunities for bass players and much more. If you're not on the list, consider subscribing. People have been telling me to play closer to the bridge since practically day one on the double bass, and it's one of those things that I kind of fall out of the habit of, and it's so easy to fall out of the habit because, frankly, it's a little trickier to play closer to the bridge. My default is to kind of get away and play over the fingerboard, and I've got an extended fingerboard, so it will look a little weird, but even if you don't have an extended fingerboard, that's probably a little too over the fingerboard for most musical situations. My first big bass influence, or one of them, was Jeff Braditich. And one of the first things he told me is you got to play closer to the bridge. And the reason why he explained to me, and so many others have explained to me, is that there's just so much more capacity in the sound. It is more challenging when you get down here, but the rewards are so great.
If you can try to use a little bit less bow and go a little closer to the bridge, because it's a little bit like, it's a little, and maybe it could be.
Look at where you're comfortable. And see if you can just move that point a little bit closer to the bridge. Now, what you will find is that you have to adjust your bow speed and quite possibly your bow weight as well. We've got these three factors that dominate all of our bowed playing, and a few other factors, but the big ones: speed, weight, and placement. So we're talking today about placement and placing that a little closer to the bridge. Now that sound might be kind of bright to you right up in your grill when you're practicing in a room that might not be that big, but that is a sound that will actually project out into the hall, and you'll be amazed at how much of those overtones, those high frequencies, really don't penetrate out into the hall. What does penetrate is clarity, and one of my favorite exercises for working on developing the capacity to play closer to the bridge is to just play open strings and challenge myself. I like to have a slow bow contest. So I'll put the metronome on and maybe at 60, that's always a good tempo for the metronome, and just see how many clicks. I can do close to the bridge. My very first bass teacher, Chuck Kreitzer, amazing bass teacher, he would have me do this and just be ready with my left hand, so if the bow ever gets stuck up on the string like this, where it's not moving, just give it a little pizzicato and you'll get it going.
A little bit closer to the bridge. Yeah, it's magic, right? Once you go a little closer to the bridge, the sound is like smoother, and your bow gets longer. It's like really magic.
Another wonderful bass event I was at recently was the Pittsburgh Double Bass Symposium. I've got that up on our YouTube channel, a synopsis of that event, as well as Nina Burnett's recital, Mick Young Sung's recital. So many great examples on our YouTube channel of people playing close to the bridge. But Ru Fong Liu, principal bass of Indianapolis, it was just amazing to watch her demo for these students, and you could kind of see their eyes pop open when they just witnessed the capacity for her to play close to the bridge and this sound. It's like whatever they played, Ru Fong could pick up her bass and just demo at like 30% more volume, or at least. heroes, all of our heroes, the great Gary Carr, father of the International Society of Bassists and so many other things. I have been amazed at how close he plays to the bridge. And in an interview I did with Gary Carr a few years ago, came over to his place in Las Vegas at the time, he said he's never played closer to the bridge as he's doing right now. Now, obviously, we don't always want this sound, but I think of developing the ability to play close to the bridge as kind of like having a block of marble, and then you can pull back and chip away and get whatever sound you want. If your default sound is kind of like this, then by putting more weight or speed, you kind of crush the sound. If your default is a little closer to the bridge, then anything else is just kind of like a relaxing into the sound. So if I have the ability to go like this, if I want to play with a little more air in the sound, all of a sudden I have that.
Let's figure out how to make it so that you have still room. I think the sound may not be opening up as much as it could. Do you ever feel like when you get to the top and you're already close to the bridge, but it's like you want it to be more, right? It's not quite, and you're like, and it's a little bit, I think, let's see. So one way that we can show like intensifying and without necessarily just like getting super loud. You hear that like at the beginning of the note, so I'm articulating a little bit. And then you can really not waste all your bow on the first beat, so you have a little bit more to go.
I was at the American String Teachers Association conference, and I got to sit in on some super groovy masterclasses with Joe Conyers, principal bassist of the Philadelphia Orchestra. I was sketching down some notes as Joe was talking. He was talking about getting a dense sound by the bridge, and that's something that we're doing this week in the New Century Chamber Orchestra. I'm playing Strauss's Metamorphosis, very cool piece. We got 3 bass players, 3 individual bass parts, and the second bass player and I were matching sound by playing just a little closer to the bridge. And just working to be a little closer to the bridge, but also a little slower in bow speed. And the word that Bill was using, the second bass player, was density. So I think that's a helpful concept. If you play with a little more bow, more of an airy sound. That can be cool depending on the situation, but oftentimes if we play with a little more density in the sound, that will result in clarity, and clarity is a beautiful thing for us bass players and for other musicians. They really like to hear the clarity of pitch, the clarity of the foundation. We may like that kind of fuzzy sound, but getting a little more density of the sound can actually be very helpful musically.
Know that you have a lot of notes to fit in on one bow, right? So you want to slow the bow down, and in order to do that, maybe a little closer to the bridge. Just so that you don't like, it's like when you get to the end of the bow, you're like, oh shoot, and then you like go really fast.
When you're talking about bowing the bass, this is the instrument that is not going to reliably speak. When I set somebody up on cello or certainly violin, if you get the bow in the right direction, they will get the fundamental. That's not necessarily the case with bass. And trying to get any note, but especially if we take that E string, trying to get that to activate, that is like a lifelong quest for the bass player. So really working on getting the fundamental, pop and release, like the wonderful Joe McFadden said, and we covered that on a YouTube video recently. It's just such an important concept, and Joe Conyers really drove that home.